Qingxiao, the sword transcendent and paragon of Zhuangfang Hold, or Mengzhou, or Zhuangfang Land of Meng, you get what I'm talking about, is finally available as the first half unit of version 3.6, accompanied by her countless projected swords, graceful aerial kit, and immense toon strain damage. Her kit, however, does come with some restrictions that cause her to heavily rely on toon break enablers in her team, but she makes up for it by having some of the largest self buffs to nearly all parts of her damage. As an arrow split damage scaling unit that scales immensely with toon break boost, she'll work best with units like Denia, Mornier, and Lynae without too much flexibility in these team options. With that, welcome to our full scope comprehensive guide to Qingxiao, the newest addition to Wuthering Waves, and I'm here to break down everything when it comes to how she works, what her best equipment will be, and the steps you need to take across her team building and rotations to make the most out of her insane damage potential. As always, if you're enjoying this content, please hit that like and subscribe button. Qingxiao, with her baseline kit, focuses on the generation of two forte resources, Qin Heart and Sword Cadence. Once these are filled, she gains access to an enhanced state where she builds up another resource, Heart Sword Intent, to deliver a massive nuke, so naturally the generation of her fortes is where we'll begin. Qingxiao's base state attacks are considered either sheathed or drawn depending on whether her sword is drawn. Attacks while sheathed grant Qin Heart, while those that are drawn grant Sword Cadence. Her basic attack has this mechanic, which consists of a 4-hit attack chain where the first and fourth are in sheath stance, while the second and third are in drawn. Her mid-air attack, on the other hand, consists of a 3-hit chain that is entirely in drawn stance, and after landing, she can chain into the third and fourth hits of her basic. Her plunging attack can be accessed in her sword flight state, which she enters after performing any aerial attacks or those that send her into the air. While in sword flight, she consumes chi. Her dodge counter simply performs the third hit of her attack chain and can be changed into her fourth. Another method of generating her forte is with her resonant skill. When used regularly, this ability generates 45 points of Qin Heart and can chain into the fourth stage of her basic. However, when used during her second or third basic or dodge counter, the attack is instead in drawn stance. The last method is simply with her intro skill, which generates 30 points of both fortes and causes her next resonant skill to generate an additional 30 points of Qin Heart. This intro also places her into the air. When both of these resources are capped, Qingxiao gains access to her enhanced heavy attack, which consumes both Qin Heart and Sword Cadence to enter the ephemeral transcendent state. This enhances her normal attacks, causing her basics to transform into a new 4-hit attack chain along with an enhanced dodge counter. Attacks in this state generate Sword Heart Intent, and when filled, a heavy attack causes a massive burst of damage on the enemy, consumes all intent, and ends her enhanced state. Enhanced basics used prior to generating all Sword Heart Intent have a 100% increased damage multiplier. Qingxiao's Liberation, on the other hand, simply deals a massive burst of damage. So her kit at a baseline appears incredibly simple, but that's because we haven't broken down some of her key self-buffs and two-break mechanics. The first is Mind Lock, which is a stacking debuff with a cap of 15 that is generated through a variety of different ways. The first is by toon breaking an enemy with toon strain shifting on them to transform it into toon strain interfered. This by itself inflicts 1 stack. Mind Lock causes Qingxiao's enhanced attacks and Liberation to gain 7% amplification for its first 7 stacks and 2% for each stack afterwards, granting her insane damage bonuses as this debuff stacks. Qingxiao's inherent skills also buff this mechanic further. Her first focuses on a buff called Gathered Mind, which she generates 1 stack of at the start of combat and has a cap of 15. After defeating a target with Mind Lock stacks, she gains Gathered Mind equal to the number of stacks without exceeding the total number of Mind Lock stacks. When dealing damage to a target, Mind Lock will be inflicted on them equal to the number of her Gathered Mind stacks, and when toon breaking a target with toon strain shifting, an additional stack of Interfered and Mind Lock will be applied to the target. Her second inherent skill also buffs Mind Lock, causing her enhanced attacks to gain 7% additional damage for the first 7 Mind Lock stacks and 2% for the next 8. Additionally, when toon strain Interfered is applied to boss enemies, they'll be inflicted with an additional stack of Mind Lock. But there's still more when it comes to this buff. Qingxiao gains a special buff called Heaven's Clarity when entering combat or using her Liberation, which causes her forte gain to increase by 100%, but also inflicts 3 stacks of Mind Lock when using her first enhanced heavy attack. This buff also causes her second enhanced heavy nuke to gain 100% damage multiplier and increases its off-tune buildup rate. Switching to another unit or using her second enhanced heavy ends this effect. You'll typically want to follow up her enhanced heavy with her Liberation to reset this effect for your next rotation. Nearly all of Qingxiao's personal damage buffs are focused around Mind Lock, Toon Strain, and Toon Breaks to quickly build up stacks and ramp up Qingxiao's damage, making teammates that increase off-toon buildup and Toon Break boost very important. That's because Toon Strain Interfere can stack up to 4 times on a target, with a 0.12% boost to damage per Toon Break boost per stack, and Qingxiao inflicts Toon Strain shifting with all of her attacks. This means with a unit like Denia, who can provide 50 Tune Break boost, and Mornier to increase the stack limit, and Qingxiao, you'll have 4 Tune Strain Interfered stacks alongside a whopping 24% additional damage dealt to the target, which is significant. You really want to have the right teammates for this character. The last piece of Qingxiao's baseline kit is her survivability, Sword Light Ward. Using an intro or her enhanced heavy causes her to gain 1 stack with a 1 stack cap. While taking damage, a ward will be consumed to grant interruption resistance and 60% damage reduction for 1 second, which is really great for face-taking hits in her rotation. When you factor in all of Qingxiao's abilities, resources, and interactions with each other, she has a simple playstyle that involves intro skilling in through the air, performing her aerial attack chain before landing and finishing her ground attack chain, and skilling to generate her forte before using her enhanced heavy attack, delivering her enhanced basic attack chain, and then ending with her second enhanced heavy and then her liberation before outro skilling to another teammate to deal a massive burst of damage. Overall, Qingxiao is a unit that greatly relies on the buzz from her teammates to even get her kit up and running in the first place. Without owning at least a few Tomb Break-oriented characters like Lynae, Denia, or Mornier, she'll struggle to build up Mind Lock stacks that enable a majority of her damage, making her performance outside of premium teams extremely lacking. But if she does acquire some premium teammates, her ceiling is absolutely insane. She's a far cry from previous Tune Strain options that were much more free-to-play friendly, but she's not a dude. Now, when it comes to actually building Qingxiao, starting off with skill priority, you want to max out her forte and liberation as they'll be her biggest sources of damage. Then you want to max out her basics. Her skill and intro can be kept at extremely low levels to save on weekly boss mats as their scaling is horrible. Moving on to her weapons, Qingxiao only has 2 real options, and both are 5 stars. However, one is way easier to acquire than the other. Here are the calculations, credits to Pride1. Let's explain these results, starting off with her signature, Glint of Clouds. This weapon features 500 base attack, a whopping 36% crit rate, 12% attack, and a ramping arrow damage buff whenever Tune Strain shifting is inflicted, giving Qingxiao permanent uptime on the effect. When fully stacked for 56% arrow damage, the effect lasts for 30 seconds and also causes her damage to ignore 10% of the target's defense. This weapon is tailor-made for Qingxiao, greatly helping her split damage portfolio. The second best option is, of course, Emerald of Genesis, the standard 5-star sword that grants 587 base attack, 24.3% crit rate, and a stacking attack buff alongside helpful ER. This weapon is naturally much less effective than her signature, but still provides ample general stats that allow Qingxiao to perform. The additional ER also makes building her echoes significantly easier. Other limited 5-star swords are definitely usable, but don't offer any specific advantages over EOG's ER that have them worth picking, especially when they're barely improvements. When EOG is effectively free and selectable on the weapon banner, go for this over any other existing options unless you're pulling her signature. Now let's talk about Qingxiao's echoes, and it's clear that Heart of Evil's Purge is her best in slot set with its built-in arrow damage and crit damage buffs when Tune Strain shifting is inflicted. Qingxiao naturally can run Sierra Gale as well if you're looking for a build in a pinch. For her Echo main stats, you'll want crit 4 cost, 1 arrow damage 3 cost, 1 attack 3 costs, and 2 attack 1 costs. Running 2 arrow damage 3 costs is virtually identical as well, so just go with whatever has better rolls. For her Echo substats, you'll want crit rate, damage, ER up to 120%, attack percentage with heavy attack damage, liberation, and basic rolls being the cherry on top. The last area of investment when it comes to Qingxiao involves your wallet or a lot of saved astrite, her sequence nodes. Here's what the damage increases are looking like, credits to Pride1. Qingxiao's first node grants her a whopping 16% crit rate and increases the stack limit of her Sword Light Ward by 2. Using her enhanced heavy attack also causes it to gain 2 stacks. She also gains 25 stacks of Exorcising Seal, and whenever any of her basic attacks are used, she removes all Exorcising Steel stacks to deliver a burst of damage to the enemy that increases based off each stack removed. Her second node gives her first enhanced heavy attack an additional 40% multiplier and increases her Mind Lock and Gathered Mind stack limit to 25. She also inflicts 6 stacks of Mind Lock when using her first enhanced heavy attack. Her third gives her Liberation an additional 100% crit damage and also causes her to gain World and Chorus stacks equal to the highest number of Mind Lock stacks across enemies hit. Each stack increases the damage multiplier of her second enhanced heavy attack by 3%, and additionally, when tomb breaking a target, a third stack of Tune Strain Interfered will be generated. Her fourth node causes any Resonator who inflicts Tune Strain Shifting to gain 20% attack on her team for 8 seconds, while her fifth increases the damage multiplier of her skill and reduces the cost of her Sword Flight's Chi by 30%. And her sixth node, the big one, causes enemies to take 40% more damage from her heavy attacks, Liberation, and S1, and also causes her to gain Exorcising Seal stacks equal to the highest Mind Lock count among nearby enemies when her first enhanced heavy is used. The damage of her S1 is also amplified and increased in the same way as her enhanced attacks, and she also gains 20% increased effects from Tune Strain Interfered. If you're looking for the best places to stop, it'll be at S2, S3, or S6. Now that we covered Qingxiao's build, let's get into some of her teams and optimal rotations. Unfortunately, given her heavy reliance on Toon Strain and its enablers, her effective team compositions are very limited for her release. This means she'll be heavily relying on units like Lynae, Denia, and Mornier with very few substitution options available. Qingxiao's strongest overall team features Mornier as the support, Denia as the sub DPS in Toon Strain mode, and Qingxiao as the DPS. You'll open up on Mornier, who will perform 3 basic attacks, then enhanced heavy to enter hovering mode. Then she'll basic attack 3 times, skill during the third attack's animation, then enhanced heavy attack, liberation, echo skill, and then outro to Denia. Denia will then intro in, perform her 4th basic, then skill and liberation. Then she'll basic attack 2 times, dodge cancel, basic attack 2 more times, and then double tap her skill, liberation, echo skill, and then outro to Qingxiao. Qingxiao will then intro into the air, hold her normal attack button to perform all 3 hits of her air attack chain, and then the final 2 hits of her ground attack chain. Then skill followed by her enhanced heavy attack to enter transcended state. From there, you'll hold down the attack button to perform her entire enhanced basic attack chain, and then her second enhanced heavy attack before using her liberation, and then outro back to Mornier to begin a second rotation in Mornier's hovering state. This team heavily leverages the insane off-tune build-up rate from Mornier and Denia to quickly generate mind lock stacks and amplify Qingxiao's damage, making it incredibly powerful in single target scenarios. You can substitute Lynae in across this team to similar but slightly worse results. However, Lynae is far more free-to-play friendly with options like static miss for her weapon. For this rotation, you'll outro to Lynae for Mornier's skill, then liberation, and then charge her heavy attack before colliding, jumping 3 times and then plunging before outro to Qingxiao so that she can perform the identical rotation listed before. Lynae also has the benefit of working with less optimal supports like Shorekeeper or even Chikona if you're going sustainless, as her Tomb Break boost isn't tied to having Mornier on the team like Denia's is. As when Denia doesn't have Mornier, she only grants 10 Tomb Break boost instead of 50, while Lynae always grants 40. This is a very, very big loss in performance, and you should never use Denia with Qingxiao unless Mornier's on the team. Unfortunately, these 2 variations are the only real options to play Qingxiao during her release, as utilizing free-to-play options like Sanhua or Alto result in very poor mind lock and Tomb Break uptime and causes her damage to disappear in free-to-play compositions. So understand what you're getting yourself into with this very premium unit. Qingxiao also has very poor quick swap potential given the fact that her damage multipliers on some of her hardest hitting abilities are lost on swap, making her a hypercarry specialist like Luke or Sigrika. At the end of the day, Qingxiao is one of the strongest damage dealers released in the game's history that unfortunately steps on the toes of every other arrow and 2 DPS in the game, either utilizing their teammates or having the same attribute as many other DPS units in the game, making the hole she's filling on your roster for veteran players almost non-existent if it was ever there at all. However, for newer players or those just looking to build every team in the game, she's a great add that utilizes some of the strongest units on the roster. However, that's all you'll be able to use her with because her kit is extremely particular. Some could say she was intentionally designed to be skipped, especially knowing the Sentinel Resonator is coming next patch, but don't let that sway your decision making if you really like this unit. As always, if you enjoyed this content, please hit that like and subscribe button. Peace out.